Why do you think the National Guard should not be deployed to Chicago?
I think from a human rights, from like a human rights standpoint, I just don't think it's right unless you've actually committed some sort of like violent crime. I'm going to say besides illegally crossing the border, we can both admit that that's a crime. But how it should be dealt with more kindly. Now, do I think that they should be deported? I think that's kind of the main question at hand. But how they're going about it and kind of violently, I think is what
the National Guard isn't coming to deport people. The National Guard is just coming to assist federal law enforcement officers. Yeah. So the issue is that 10 U.S. Code 12406 very plainly says that the president has the authority vested in him to deploy and federalize the National Guard in any situation where there is a danger of a rebellion or the federal government is unable to enforce federal law with regular agencies. So the problem is what we've seen here in Chicago, well, I guess this isn't technically Chicago, but in Chicago, what we've seen is the mayor of the city is actively resisting the enforcement of federal law. He's declared ICE-free zones. Federal agents are not allowed to operate on city property. That's one issue. And then also you have protesters bringing guns to riots outside of the ICE facility. You have car rammings. You have shootings on ICE agents. And all the while, the Chicago PD refuses to assist those agents. I think it requires National Guard deployment.
I would...
And it would be legal.
Yeah, I would say, there's definitely a legal standpoint, but is it right? And I also don't think the people who are bringing guns to the protests, I don't think that's necessarily right either. I don't think violence is the answer.
But how do you stop them?
How do you stop them?
Yes, clearly it's not working. It happens every day. How do you stop them?
Well, maybe from like a human rights standpoint, maybe this says something more about like how people feel about what the president is doing. Like, do they think it's just?
Well, I don't care how you feel about what the president's doing. It doesn't give you the right to shoot at ICE agents.
Oh, I'm not saying it gives you the right.
Right, but and obviously,
I'm just trying to say like maybe that's a reason why they're doing it because they feel.
But do you hear how it sounds like a justification? And then also,
okay, fair enough.
And then also, the issue is if it keeps happening, and the amount of agents currently present in Chicago is not enough to stop or deter that, something's got to give, and the president legally has the authority to deploy the National Guard, and thus he should. You have gang members in Chicago right now putting bounties on the heads of border officials, like kill for hire, which is something's got to give. You've got, like, who's going to win? The skeleton crew of federal agents operating in Chicago, or the gang industrial complex that the Chicago government fuels? Probably it's going to be the gangs. So I say the military is the only solution to that problem, and the president legally is able to do this.
I mean, I feel like there's got to be somewhere in between where it's like, it's either A or B. Like that seems quite binary.
It's proven to work.
It seems incredibly binary that it has to be like. I think there's space in between that where it's like.
I don't think so. I don't think so. You need highly trained individuals that are good at threat assessment and defusing threats to come to Chicago and deal with situations. It's proven to work. It worked in L.A. I was in L.A. for the riots at the federal buildings. What happened when the National Guard got there? It went peaceful.
Protesters did is right either. I'm not justifying.
I know you're not. But what I'm saying is the current amount of federal forces is not enough to quell what's going on. In L.A., when they were lighting Waymos on fire and trapping California Highway Patrol under underpasses and lighting their cars on fire, with them in it, nothing could have stopped that. The National Guard gets there, what happens? They all go home. Suddenly, when you've got a bunch of guys in camouflage with M4s walking your streets, you tend not to throw bricks at federal officers.
And it's like, but to be fair, is that like the government just attacking like citizens' right
No, they didn't do anything. The National Guard didn't do anything. All they did was they went to the federal building and they stood in the line.
Okay, fair enough.
It's just a show of force.
I think also the fact of like the National Guard nowadays has like a symbolic presence. I think I don't know if you agree with me on that, but I think there's a bit of symbolism of the terror. Fear that maybe it's like a bit of fear mongering to invoke in people.
Well, I think it's not fear mongering for anybody other than criminals. So look at what happened in D.C.
What do we consider criminals?
People who are killing people who are throwing bricks at officers. What happened in D.C. is you went from having the 4th highest murder rate in the entire country to having a virtual no murder rate, right? You just plopped a bunch of National Guard down in Washington, D.C. on federal property, and suddenly all the bad guys stay home, and the murder rate plummets. It's a great solution.
I mean,
And it'll solve multi issues, right? If you now have a federalized National Guard presence in Chicago, not only are you going to stop the riots on federal property and allow the administering of federal law to continue, but the bad guys in general are probably going to stay home. You're probably going to see less robberies, probably going to see less murders and less gang violence.
And it's like, who do we consider like the bad guys? Like a little bit more specific, like
gangsters,
just the people who are doing the
murderers,
protests, or just the
anybody, violent rioters.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Gangsters,
okay,
murderers,
fair.
Robbers, burglars.
But do we think that the people who are being deported, besides the ones?
Oh, they're bad guys too, but they're not as bad of guys.
Okay, but do you think the way that they're being treated is fair?
Yes.
You think that's humane?
Their first action.
People who let's just compare where they started.
Yep.
Sorry, I interrupted you. I didn't.
You're good.
People from where they started, they're probably, some of these people are fleeing to get to a better place for a better economic status. Like that's what we want out of America.
Well, that sucks. But what if I lived in a double wide trailer and I said I need to flee my double wide trailer to get into a better place, and I went and lived in your family's home? Is that just what I did, or do you have the right to violently remove me? Because I think you should put a gun to my face and kick me out of your house. That's what I would do to somebody who did that.
I feel like that's like, I'm not really sure where the comparison is.
The comparison is that you're saying because they're fleeing a bad situation and woe is me and it sucks to be them, that they have the right to just enter the United States and reside here illegally. If I live in a shitty situation, I don't think that I have the right to leave my shitty situation and make your good situation my shitty situation.
I think it's actually making people's situations better. I think our GDP has increased when we have more immigrants.
Okay, but that's not okay. Well, you have to differentiate legal immigrants and illegal immigrants. Yeah. And also having a better economy is not justification to do something bad, right?
No, it isn't.
What happened after we abolished slavery? The entire economy of the South collapsed. Doesn't mean we shouldn't have abolished slavery just because there were economic repercussions to it. The majority of illegal immigrants living in this country are slaves. They have to hire the cartel to come here. They need coyotes. They can't enter the United States. You have to cross a desert and evade law enforcement to come here illegally. You have to hire the cartel to do that for you. The overwhelming majority of illegals had to hire the cartel to get them here. Okay, so they are actively paying off a debt to the cartel, because when they go to the cartel, like you just said, in their poor, crappy situation, what they do is they tell the cartel, I don't have any money, but can you get me there? And the cartel says, I understand that you're broke, and that's fine. We'll take you. You're going to pay us back later. Okay, so they're already getting paid virtually nothing by the farmers and factories that hire them, and then what's left over goes to the cartel. And the cartel says, if you don't pay me back, I will murder you or your family in Mexico, and I've seen the bodies.
This seems to be like, I feel like that's a really specific like example that's like maybe just an outlier among like...
It's not an outlier. I've filmed 3 separate documentaries on the southern border in Texas.
And it's
this is what happens.
There are more criminals statistically that exist in the United States compared to like the ones that, if you don't count obviously like illegally crossing the border is a crime, just like they're trying to seek a better place.
It's not true. Illegal immigrants disproportionately commit crime. If you look at Kinney County, Texas, there are more crimes committed by illegal immigrants in Kinney County, Texas than there are people living in the county. You look at El Paso, Texas, it's about 46% of all crime are committed by illegal immigrants. When you look at counties that have a lot of illegal immigrants, they disproportionately commit crimes every single time. And again, 100% of them are criminals. There's no reason why we should exclude their first action entering this country being blatantly disrespecting and disregarding the laws of this country and spitting in the face of every legal immigrant.
They're just as human, just as anyone else who walks
Wait, so you don't think that it's disrespectful to walk into a country and violate its laws? Because I do.
Well, it's also like it's one law, and I think they're also trying to just make themselves like a better life.
That's cool, but again, if I want to make myself a better life, that doesn't mean I have the right to steal from you.
But we're not. What are you stealing when you're crossing the border?
Well, we can start with, according to the House Committee on Budget, the net fiscal drain of an illegal immigrant is $70,000 per person. So that's number one. They drain $70,000 per person from the U.S. economy. That's taxes paid minus social welfare used. So they are stealing from us. But also, they don't have a right to come into our space illegally and occupy it. That's what they're doing. I don't have a right to leave my bad house and go to your good house and occupy it.
Yeah, and I also think, I think, personally, I guess if it was just me, I wouldn't really have a problem with that. But I do agree
you wouldn't have a problem with somebody entering your house and staying there illegally?
Okay, but I don't think that's, all scenarios.
No, I'm just saying, would you have a problem with that?
Would I have a problem with that?
I can't believe you even have to think about it.
I mean, it's also
if somebody walks
it's a human being.
If somebody walks, let's put it this way: if
it's
somebody walks into my house without my permission, they're going to be shot with a 12-gauge shotgun.
Okay.
Every single time. You don't have a right to walk into my house where my family lives and decide you're going to set up camp. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you have on you. I don't know your intentions. I'm going to shoot you.
I also just don't take violence as my first action. That's just me morally.
When I have a woman behind me that I need to protect, I do take violence as my first option. And when the government, it's the same situation. When somebody comes into this country without permission, we don't know their intentions. We don't know what they have on them. We don't know what they brought here because they entered the country without inspection. The government is me standing in front of my girlfriend. They're standing in front of their people, protecting them. And that's why those people get deported and taken out.
And it's just like...
they actually meet them with less violence than I would meet somebody with.
I think that there's a bigger issue with this, is that, like, a part of it, too, is I don't know if you agree with me on this, that citizenship needs to be easier to get.
I could not agree less.
You don't agree with that?
No, it shouldn't be easy to be an American citizen.
Why?
Why should it be easy to be an American citizen?
Because
if it was easy to be an American citizen, everybody would be one. Right? We can't take in the world's population. It needs to be difficult to be a citizen here. And by the way, it's not difficult to get permanent. As of right now, it's not difficult to get permanent residency here. It takes less than a year. And then once you're a permanent resident, it takes 5 years minimum to become a citizen.
I feel like having citizenship would also lower a lot of the problems. And it is a more humane way of treating this, where it's like, okay, there wouldn't be, do you think there would be like less illegal crossings if citizenship was easier to apply?
So if somebody wants to come into my house and take my things, I don't say, well, I could solve the problem of people robbing me if I just went out into the streets and gave things away. Right? I don't solve crime by giving to the criminals.
So we're inherently believing that the people who are entering the country are like trying to be criminals. They're trying to.
No, it's not that they're trying to be criminals. They are criminals, and they actively tried to get there. Everyone who's entered this country illegally has violated 8 U.S. Code 1325, improper entry by alien. It's been federal code since the 1940s.
Let's remove the fact that it's an illegal immigrant.
Why would we remove that?
From a moral standpoint.
Why would we remove that?
They're a human being. Yes, they have committed the crime of illegally crossing the border. We can both agree upon that. But other than that, what have they done wrong? Like, what have they done wrong? Like, what have they done to harm you specifically?
Yeah, okay. Like, so let me just give you like a quick analogy. When I go to bed at night, what do?
Sleep.
Nope.
Right?
I close my door, I lock it, and I put a loaded gun on my nightstand. I don't want my country to leave its door open any more than I want my own door open at night, right? We don't know who's coming here. There are national security risks. There are net fiscal drains on the U.S. economy. And they're also bringing things into this country that we don't want here and that are illegal here. Like there's enough enough fentanyl smuggled across the U.S. southern border every single year to kill every single American by overdose. Furthermore, we don't know what guns they're bringing here, right? You guys want an assault weapons ban, right? You cross the border without inspection, you can bring anything here.
I mean, you don't know like anything that anybody here is bringing. Like, let's think about that too. At least the people who are U.S. citizens, you don't know what anything that people are here.
No, but I know who these people are, right? If I needed to find out who these people are, right, the government can find them. Why? Because they're all registered citizens of this country. I bet everyone in this crowd has an ID in their pocket.
I would bet you that it's
an illegal immigrant doesn't.
I would bet you that it's more likely statistically that an American citizen would be more likely, to commit a violent crime than like an illegal immigrant.
Okay, what's your point? Why does that mean that we should allow illegal immigrants to commit violent crimes?
I'm not saying that it's right. I'm not saying no violent crime.
And again, I'll point you to the only state in the country that classifies crime by immigration status, Texas. Look at Kinney County, Texas. There are more crimes committed by illegal immigrants than there are people living in the county.
That's Kinney County, Texas.
Okay, look at El Paso, Texas.
All the US? Is that representative of all the US, though?
Well, it has to be because it's the only state that classifies its arrest data by immigration status. No other state does it. None of them. It's just Texas. Any study you will find about immigration and crime statistics in the United States will be all sourced from the Texas Department of Public Safety. All of them. Because they're the only police department that classifies their arrest by immigration status. And it's probably much more disproportionate than Texas can determine, because the only way they know a person is illegal is if the federal government has already arrested that person and deemed them an illegal immigrant. So there are probably lots of people who haven't been arrested by the federal government that are illegals that Texas just can't determine are illegals.
In what type of crime is it? Is it specifically that they've illegally crossed the border? Or
No. It's crimes on top of 8 U.S. Code 1325.
Okay. Fair enough. I would say that's a fair point. But I think again, like holistically from what we're looking at here, I'm still willing to bet statistically across the country that a U.S. citizen is more likely to commit a crime.
We don't have any data on that, so you can't prove that. But either way, it doesn't disprove anything I'm saying, because it doesn't change the fact that we still shouldn't allow our door to be open. Again, I don't leave my door open at night.
We're under this presupposition that it's like that.
Even if my girlfriend is more likely to steal my candy while I'm sleeping, right? I still don't leave my front door open.
Yeah, and I'm not saying leave your front door open. Like,
well, the front door of the country was open for 4 years, and it's what you're arguing for.
I feel like this is also like it's a human being, and it's not like no one's allowing you. Oh, let me just open your door and let me open.
Let's try this route. Let's try this route. Do you believe in border laws?
Do I believe in border laws?
Yes.
Yes, I do believe in border laws.
You believe there should be a border?
I do believe that there should be a
Okay, and you
border,
believe that the U.S. government should vet who comes through that border?
Yeah, to some extent.
So if deportation is not the consequence for violating the border law, because we have one second. Let me finish the question.
Yeah.
We have 8 U.S. Code 1325, improper entry by alien, which is a law that says it's illegal to come into this country without inspection or permission of an immigration official. It seems like you support that. So if you don't enforce your laws, you don't have laws. So what I would ask you is, what consequence do you think violators of that law should be given?
I do think that there should be some form of deportation, but the process should be much more kinder and much more
like what? We give them a lollipop and a sandwich and send them on their way? Or?
That's like going 100% one way and saying like,
what do you think should be kinder?
Like a black and white issue, as if like, oh, it's either this or it's that.
What do you think should be kinder?
There's always a gray area.
What do you think should be kinder about the situation?
What should I think should be kinder? I just don't think the fact that they're a human being. I also just don't assume naturally that their intentions is to harm.
I don't care what their intentions are. If I shoot Lance in the face right now, it doesn't matter what my intentions of shooting him is. Right? I shot him. I go to jail.
You shot him. Yeah, but it's also, I'm not really sure what the point of that
is. Maybe Lance has a wallet with $1,000 on it, and I have 3 starving children. Right? So I shoot Lance in the face and steal his wallet. My intentions were to feed my children, but it doesn't matter because I killed somebody.
That's just also like an argument out of absurdism more than it is like what actually
it's not an argument out of absurdism, because people get robbed in this country every day. But again, a reductio ad absurdum is a legitimate argument to test logical consistency. So even if it was a reductio ad absurdum, it doesn't matter.
Fair enough. I just think that it's also just not very humane, because there are not situations where someone's like, for example, like, oh, I'm crossing the border, and then my immediate action. Maybe there's an outlier example, but I don't think that's the general cases of what's happening. I think a lot of these people just want to seek a better life, a better job, and they're not trying to just like, because you're comparing crossing the border to opening like a physical door.
Again, their intentions don't matter. It doesn't matter why they decided to violate our laws. All that matters is they did. If I rob a store and I kill somebody in the process, or if I just rob a store with a gun, it doesn't matter why I did it. I still did it.
That's violence versus something that is non-violent.
Okay. If I go and steal Lance's stuff right now in a non-violent fashion, he leaves it on the sidewalk and I steal it. Again, it doesn't matter why I stole it. It just matters that I did. It could have been to sell all his stuff and feed my family. It doesn't matter. I still did it, and I still go to jail. You violate the law, you go to jail. If you don't enforce your laws, you don't have them.
Bad intentions. People crossing the border.
No, my intentions weren't bad. I wanted to feed my family, so I robbed Lance.
Okay, well then that's more of a governmental problem than I think it really is a problem with.
No, it's a problem for everyone.
What does that say about like socioeconomics then, I guess? It says more about socioeconomics than it does say about like border.
It doesn't matter how poor or in what bad a situation you're in. It does not make it permissible to violate other people's rights by stealing or harming them.
I don't think we're really violating other people's rights by it.
You think that me stealing Lance's stuff is not a violation of his right?
I think that situation is a violation of someone's rights, but I also think it speaks to a broader socioeconomic problem and a governmental issue.
The socioeconomic problems of people in other countries is not our government's problem.
No, it isn't, but it's also like, just like if you look at like historically what the U.S. has represented, like the U.S. has represented like a place where people can go to get a better life. Like that's what symbolically the U.S. has represented, and I think that's like,
yeah, we did that when we needed it. We don't need it anymore. We're full.
We're full?
We're full.
There's a capacity point.
Yeah.
If we overreach it, there's a capacity point.
Yeah, we already
already
have tons of people in this country living below the poverty line. Why would we bring more poor people in from other poor countries? Okay, does it make any sense?
That doesn't just like, I think that's more of like, again, that speaks to a broader issue about like how the government treats.
Right. So the solution to that issue is not bringing in more poor people. Right?
I don't think that's what the solution people are thinking of.
Okay, but you're saying we have a socioeconomic problem where there are lots of poor people, right?
Yeah.
And then you're also saying, wait, hold up, pause. And then you're also saying, let's bring in more poor people who are a net fiscal drain of $68,000 per person into this country so they can drain the social welfare systems we have set up for our people who aren't getting it.
I also just think that speaks to a bigger problem that doesn't necessarily pertain to immigrants. Like, I feel like that's a bit of a slippery slope we're going down. I think we do need to also treat our most vulnerable. We can do two things at once. We can kill two birds with one stone. We can bring across these immigrants and try to give them a better life.
Why?
Well, why?
Why?
Because it's human. They are human beings.
Okay, so if we go by that standard, there are several billion people in this country living below the abject poverty line.
Yeah, I think that's
we don't just bring them all in because they're humans, right?
I think that's
we don't have the capacity to take in 2 billion people.
We're talking about two different things. That is a problem.
But you're saying we should just bring in anyone because they're people and they need a better life.
Yeah,
doesn't make any sense.
That's a great policy.
Right. So there are 2 billion people living in poverty in this world. You can't bring in 2 billion people to the United States.
Well, no, 2 billion people also aren't asking to live in the United States.
Do you think that 2 billion people would deny the offer to come live in the United States? Because I don't.
No, I don't think they would. But there's also a lot of political and different factors.
So do you see the problem with your reasoning? Just bring in everybody. Bring in everybody because they're people. It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, what do you mean?
It's not practically possible.
Sure, it's not practically.
The country would collapse.
Sure, and that's why I'm also saying that there needs to be more government intervention on treating the people who are most vulnerable in the country already.
Right. And you can't do that when you import a bunch of poor people.
Yeah,
we can't control the socioeconomic circumstances of people in other countries, nor should we try, right? So those people can't come here. You don't violate the laws of this country. If you violate the laws of this country, you're out.
But
and also, you're spitting in the face of legal immigrants.
And we're acting like that. This is oh, they're people oh, they've really done this evil, immoral action. By crossing the border, looking for something better.
I never said it was evil or immoral.
Then why are we being so forceful?
Because if you have laws, and you agree with these laws, by the way, you have to enforce them. If you don't enforce those laws, they don't exist, right? If you fail to enforce your laws, they don't exist.
Yeah.
And so if we don't enforce the laws that require our government to deport illegal immigrants, people who have violated federal code, the law doesn't exist. And so it has to be enforced evenly and equally. Anybody, I don't care how long you are here, I don't care how old you are, abuela, you're gone. Adios.
Yeah,
okay?
And I think a part of it for me is okay, there's got to be a bit of solvency. Like for example, I was hearing a case for example, this guy, the father was he must have been illegally here, but he had a son with 3 Marines and he's been living in the country for over 30 years. And he was taken away. Is that fair in any way imaginable? You think that's
I think so.
right?
I think so. So let's change the circumstances.
Dedicated to this.
Yeah,
country.
let's change the circumstances here.
Okay. Yeah.
So this guy, instead of violating 8 U.S. Code 1325 improper entry by alien, he killed somebody 30 years ago, and then he had these children. He leads a great life. Would we say when we find out that he's the killer? Would we say, but he has a great life and 3 Marines? No.
Someone and
it's an analogy. They don't have to be the same, and they're not the same, right? But we don't stop enforcing the law just because somebody has decided.
The analogy doesn't
I'm
work.
not done.
Okay.
We don't stop enforcing the law just because after breaking the law, somebody has decided to do something productive with their lives. They still violated the law, and it doesn't matter.
There's levels of law. There are levels of what is more. You get more time.
We don't decide what laws we enforce based on what's moral. The laws are the morality. When we create laws, I'm not finished. When we create laws, we try to base them in morality. The morality, the system of morality the government operates on is already set in stone. Right, we've already decided how we enforce the laws, and therefore they must be enforced evenly, or they don't exist.
I think the time that we put in place, that we send people away for in jail or prison, is in a sense a moral timeline. It's a moral punishment.
Yeah.
When we sentence someone away for murder for a lifetime, we consider that morally worse than let's say doing something else. That's why I'm saying
what's
the
analogy
consequence
for this? What's the consequence for violating 8 U.S. Code 1325?
What's the violation?
The consequence is no time in jail, deportation. Goodbye.
Yeah, deportation, but that's also the U.S. Constitution.
It's not the Constitution. It's federal code.
Federal code.
They're different.
Okay. I mean, again, I just think I'm arguing kind of more from a moral standpoint. If we think that's morally right, more than what's
it's not these laws. These laws about borders. And about
I'm going to go on a few
guidelines, right? That's fine. That's fine. These laws about borders are not based in morality, right? You don't say, well, it's immoral to cross a border. Nobody says that, right?
Yeah.
Laws like this, like murder laws, are born out of morality.
Yeah.
laws like this are born out of practicality. There are two wings to the law, practicality and morality. Laws about borders are not born out of morality. They're born out of practicality because we realize that there are countries who don't like us, and we can't just allow them to send people over here willy-nilly without us vetting those people first.
Yeah.
Furthermore, we also can't allow endless amounts of drugs, weapons, etc. to come across the border. We can't allow cartel gangs to invade this country because you best believe that if they had their way, they would also be slinging drugs in the United States physically, right? Not just shipping it over the border and having distributors send it out, right? You bet your ass they'd be here killing people. We can't let that happen, right? It's born out of practicality because the government has an obligation to protect its people.
Yeah. Nice to meet you.
Yeah,
You have
nice
a great
to meet you
day.
too. Thank you.
If I had to say anything else, like I believe maybe the law should be more of blending of practicality and morality.
Yeah.
So you have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Have a good one. Be safe.
Hello.
Hi. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Step a little closer to the mic. Good.
Hi.
Hi. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great.
I'm just curious. I just want to know your point of view
On this?
I see the sign on anything. Like I'm not entirely sure like who you are. Other people have like kind of mentioned a few things, but
Yeah.
you said let's talk, so
Yeah.
I'm interested.
So we'll talk about this since this is the topic for today.
Okay.
So I think that the federal government should deploy National Guard troops to Chicago. And the reason for that is because of 10 U.S. Code 12406, which very plainly says, it's not the Insurrection Act, very plainly says that the President of the United States has the power vested in him to deploy the National Guard and federalize the National Guard under Title 10. They are federal forces, not state forces. He can deploy the National Guard as federal forces if there is danger of a rebellion or the federal government is unable to enforce laws in the place they're deploying to.
Okay.
In Chicago, the mayor has declared ICE-free zones,
Right.
which basically make it illegal for federal agents to operate on city property.
Okay.
That's an insurrection, okay? It's a rebellion. Not just danger of a rebellion, it is one. Also, there are protesters showing up to ICE every night with guns. The federal agents have recovered them. There are car rammings. There are shootouts with ICE, and the Chicago Police Department isn't doing anything to stop it. The Chicago Police Department was specifically instructed not to respond to a shooting on ICE agents in a car ramming. I think all of those things add up to what is effectively a rebellion, and then also make it impossible for federal agencies to enforce federal law, and thus reinforcements must be sent to restore order and allow for federal law to be enforced.
So when it comes to the operations of like ICE, what are your thoughts on ICE? Also, I don't know who you are. If you could tell me what your name
I'm Cam Higby. Yeah.
Sorry?
Cam Higby. Nice to meet you.
I don't shake
Okay.
hands with
That's
men,
fine. Sure.
But religious reasons.
Oh, okay. I
But
understand. I understand.
So what's your name? Sorry.
Cam Higby.
Cam Higby.
Yep.
Where are you from?
I am from New York, lived in LA for 2 years, and now Seattle.
Okay. Before I ask you about ICE, I just want to know why, like, what set you on this path to like come to college campuses and talk to students, and what do you hope to accomplish?
Yeah, so obviously Charlie Kirk was tragically killed on September 10th.
So you're like the next.
No, I'm not. Charlie Kirk is irreplaceable. There will never be a next Charlie Kirk. I am simply out here to show the left that we are fearless in the face of violence, in the face of death, and I'm also out here to show the left that they can have conversations with me. I assume you're probably left-leaning. We can stand across from each other and we can talk about these issues without killing or hurting each other.
Okay.
And so that's what I'm out here to show. Show the right that we're fearless, and show the left we can have discussions without killing each other, and also that we won't be intimidated by political violence. Film it, Lance. Film it.
Okay. So I would say as a regular citizen, one might say, I'm not like politically affiliated necessarily. I would say the main thing that I think of when it comes to issues surrounding, ICE agents picking people up and all of these things is it seems like it kind of impedes, state autonomy in what you're saying, like, historically states have had the ability to enact certain rules, like the mayor did in this.
They don't have the authority to do that.
They do. They
No,
do
don't.
have some authority.
They do not. The federal government, federal law is supreme. States cannot violate federal law.
Yes, I
So
understand that. But I'm
8 U.S. Code 1324 is aiding and abetting an illegal immigrant. Declaring an ICE-free zone and sheltering illegal immigrants from federal action is a violation of 8 U.S. Code 1324, and the mayor of Chicago should be in jail.
Okay. So I just want to ask you about empathy. Where do you think empathy plays a role in this? Because as someone who has seen videos of ICE agents ripping parents away from their children and from their families, when it's common knowledge that the number one reason that people flee their homes and come to America is for search of safety and for a better life.
Yeah.
And so that's I'm sure you've heard that before. So what are your thoughts on that? Because as a human being, I feel empathy for people who are going through something like that. And to me, it just seems that ripping them away from their families and throwing them back into whatever mess the U.S. wants to throw them into is. It doesn't sit right with me. It doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I think that Trump has actually
Can
done.
I say one more thing,
Sure.
please? I think historically, in instances of injustice in this country, whether it's social issues, human rights issues, over the years, our Constitution's been amended, our laws have changed to support different people throughout the years, like protesting and stuff along that sort. They happen all the time. So when it comes to the empathy position, though, I want to ask your opinion about that.
Yeah, I think that Trump has actually done a fantastic job at balancing empathy when it comes to deportations.
I'm not asking about Trump. I'm asking about you.
Yeah, well, I agree with him, so I'll just say what he's done and why I agree with it. So when Trump came into office the first time, there was a lot of talk about kids in cages at the border. Obama was doing that. He was putting kids in detention facilities.
Obama was doing that. Biden was doing that also.
Yeah, and so what Trump did is he said, we're going to have a zero tolerance policy. And what will happen is that when we pick up an illegal immigrant who comes here with the child will go to an HHS shelter. They don't belong in jail.
But you're still separating the child
Exactly.
from the family.
And what happens if I go out and I shoot Lance in the face? I go to jail and my kid goes to a shelter. That's exactly what happens with American citizens. Why should illegal immigrants get special treatment?
Shot someone in the face, and they should be separated.
If I
from their
steal
child?
from Lance right now and I go to jail, what happens? I get separated from my family, right? So the child goes to a shelter because they don't belong in a detainment facility. The adults who knowingly did what they did and violated federal code go to a detainment facility until they're deported.
And then, what do you think about ICE agents who have picked up documented immigrants and they're Do you believe there's any amount of racial profiling that happens along those lines?
No, all of the raids.
You don't think they're racially profiled?
all of the raids that happen from ICE are targeted. So
that's actually not completely true in the sense that. Let me just bring up one thing. In the local neighborhood, local as in within Illinois, couple hour radius, Naperville. I'm sure. Have you heard of Naperville?
No.
Yeah, it's just a suburb, a little bit outside of Chicago. There was a father, and a family. They were out for some birthday party for their daughter, and there were, a number of workers, Hispanic workers, that were filling in the roof on their house, and there was an ICE raid on the street. The workers were, spread out, running in all different directions. They were being chased by armed people.
If they were illegal, why were they running?
Because they were scared because the person chasing them had a gun. So I think that's a fair thing.
Right. So when I haven't committed a crime, I don't run away from police officers.
Ended up being yes.
It actually sounds like the dumbest thing you can do in that situation.
So when somebody has a gun, and historically, people have been profiled for.
Not true. You're more likely to be struck by lightning in this country than you are to be shot and killed by the police, regardless of your skin color.
I'm not even talking about the police here. I'm just talking about ICE. ICE primarily targets Hispanic people.
Are ICE police officers?
Yes.
Okay.
No, sorry.
You're more likely to be struck by lightning than you are to be shot and killed by the police while unarmed.
Please, ICE is not exactly police officers.
They are police officers.
They are. There's a state, police officers, and there's ICE.
Yeah.
ICE
So
federal.
all police officers, they're all police officers.
Okay,
so for all police officers, you are more likely to be struck by lightning year over year than you are to be shot and killed by the police while unarmed.
My thought, please.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So, in this particular instance. It's on the news. If you want to look, ABC7, Eyewitness News, they have an interview with the man who employed those workers on his roof, and he said all of them were documented. They come from a credible organization that hires people to do the roofing work, and it was they were targeted racially. Just seems like the only explanation to that. Because so if you're saying that ICE agents never target anybody due to their race, and they're all like, targeted because they have evidence. Then why did that happen?
So is there
any
evidence outside of the guy who illegally hired illegal workers saying they weren't illegal?
That's what I'm saying. No, yeah, they.
What's the other evidence? What's the other evidence?
I didn't pull up the
pull
article.
It up.
But sure.
Because I would wager to guess that the guy who violated the law by hiring illegal immigrants probably is also going to say, no, they were totally legit.
Okay. I honestly didn't come here because I wanted to get into a whole thing. I really wanted to ask you about the empathy aspect of it. Do you not feel some kind of anything when you see people being ripped away from their kids?
If somebody walked into my house, they're going to be met with the barrel of a gun, right?
Oh, really?
So, yeah, people aren't allowed in my house without my permission.
Okay.
I also think that people shouldn't be allowed in my country without my government's permission, right? And when they come into this country illegally without the permission of my government, they should be deported, just as I would deport them from my home had they entered without my permission.
That's rather hostile.
What would you do if somebody walked into your house without your permission? There's a strange man in your house. You won't even shake hands with men.
Yeah.
What would you do to a man who walked into your house?
I mean, I guess I would, want to know why they were there, and I would ask.
I'm not asking why they're there. I'm going to leave them with a 5-inch hole in their chest and then remove their body from my property.
Maybe that's where we just differ.
I have a family, and I protect them at all costs. I don't let strange men into my house without my permission. I don't want strange men in my country without my permission either.
Okay. All right. Is there anything, I don't know, to elaborate on?
I don't think, unless you have more questions. I'm happy to answer anything else you have, as long as it's related to this.